No, I haven't seen this, but
I
yeah.
need you to be brave tonight for the sake of my CV, says Brendan to the assorted players. We'll
So
get on
is
to
that
the subject matter of that, but yeah, let's run through the players. Can you name them from left to right?
well? That's it's a rather is that an unkind Casper Spectacle? Is it?
Yes, it must be.
What's his? What's the mask thing about? That's weird. Jota, 2 seasons ago, Callum McGregor. That's new Maeda with the new hair.
Mhm.
I imagine is that Trusty, maybe?
I think it's Trusty. Yeah.
Yeah. Carter Vickers.
Come back to that one. Who's in
Yeah.
the end?
Who is that? Who's got a beard and massive hair?
That's got to be Kuhn,
Oh,
I
maybe.
think. And then
Yeah.
who's the piece of wood?
I don't know that. Like, is that a very oh, you can tell by it's a very unkind Adamida, I would
Of
say.
course, look at the eyes.
Yeah. The eyes have it. That's that is a bit unkind, I think.
So what's the suggestion there? Is that because of the way he speaks when he's in an interview afterwards? He's so wooden. Is
I
that
don't
the
know.
idea?
Or if you've been really unkind, is he a big lump of wood that, doesn't do much up front? I think if it's that, that's pretty unfair. But generally, I do like football tweets. I'm still confused by Casper's sort of eyewear, headband, etc.
Yeah, I can't shed any light on that. But that brings us on, does it not, to a little discussion about Brendan? Because, well, what did it say? The quote there. I need you to be brave tonight for the sake of my CV. And you sort of mentioned it briefly there a moment ago. Now, you see a lot of this on social media, don't you? Right board, you have to back this guy, give him everything he wants. He can take us to the moon.
Yeah.
Has Brendan proved himself in this Champions League? He's done a tremendous job. Tremendous job. Excellent manager. Annoys me a bit just the way he is, but excellent manager. And well, you remember when we had the guy on from Scotland's Coefficient, and
The other
we sort
Gavin.
of the other Gavin, and we posited that maybe it was a good time that Rodgers came back for those 3 easy seasons of Champions League football.
Yeah.
Now, next year we have to do a qualifying round. This year's been pretty good for the coefficient. I suspect the year after that, there'll be one qualifying round as well. So Brendan probably backs himself to get into the Champions League both times through one qualifying round, you would think.
Yeah.
But this whole question of his signing a new contract, what are your views on that?
I'd like to see him sign a new contract. I think he's definitely taken this team to another level. He's got the board to invest in the squad, albeit probably not a net investment, but we've definitely started to push up a little bit on signings. Whether you agree that that was the right amount of money for those players or not, at least we're now operating at that level. And he's 100% taken us on in Europe and at home. It's turning into a procession. So what has he got? He's got one more year after this one. I think that's all he had, a 3-year deal. I'd be trying to extend it for the one. He's proved himself, and if he wants to be here and he can keep getting the board to support him, then I can't think that I'd rather not gamble trying to find somebody better and potentially end up with somebody a lot worse. So I'd prefer to keep him. And just like a player, if you extend his contract and he does decide to go, or he falls out with the board, or the board show less ambition and won't match where he wants to be, or whatever other reason he might want to go for his own ambitions to have one more tilted, a richer league, then we're protected. We made a lot of money to let Ange Postecoglou leave. I think it was about best part of 4, 5, 6 million, maybe. I think we got 8 or 9 from when Rodgers went the last time. So you should be protecting your key assets, and the manager's definitely one of them. So I'd be extending his contract at the end of the season for sure.
Okay, in the comments they've gone off on one totally irrelevant chit chat about comedians and TV shows, stuff like that. So I'm not. There's no comments for me to flash up, but yeah, Brendan. You see, I can't shake this feeling that he will ultimately say, "Look, I was here last time, and I realized I left and upset people and all that, and this time." One thing I was sure I was going to do was come back and fulfill my contract. Wanted to come back and fulfill my contract and put Celtic back on the European map again. And one more season in the Champions League, and he can leave saying he's done both of those things if that's his desire. And nobody can really argue with it, right?
He can, but I just thought the phrase, I want us to be a seasoned team at this level, 2 seasons in the Champions League doesn't do that. So either he's fast and loose with language, and you and I are both sticklers for good use of language. And there's, I think he picks and chooses his words pretty carefully. He's probably a bit looser with them than some, but if to say you want to take the club to be seasoned at this level, I don't think you get that on one more year of doing okay. I think that's consistently playing at this level, but I take the point. It's going to get harder, and turnover a squad makes it more difficult as well. So, if you can, I wish he was. If you can keep this, like, there's 2 schools of thought. He's clearly an ambitious dude, and he's walked out before. He wouldn't walk out mid-contract again. I don't think he would. But as you say, he could walk after 3 years, and he wouldn't have effectively done anything wrong. And he's got a massive ego, which is part of the reason for his success. And he will be still ambitious. He's still relatively young man. And that's a backhanded compliment for you as well, Gav, I believe. So he's a relative, certainly in managerial terms, he's a relatively young man. Like,
he is young, yeah.
Yeah, so he's early 50s, and you've got guys like Ange turning 60. So he's got another 10 years at least at the top level, and there's lots of them going into the 70s. So I'd be surprised if he didn't want a tilt again. However, he's had ups and downs, and he's been burned. So he might be a lot more picky about where he ends up next time. And if you're picky, then that reduces your overall options for what you want to do. I don't really see him going to the continent, being honest. I don't think that's really, I think he still always sort of veers back to British players. So I would say he's probably going to stay in the UK, and that probably means the Premier League again. I'm sure he'd love to win the Premier League, but there's only so many teams that could do that. And who's going to hire
at the moment?
Yeah, nobody's. I can't see anyone.
Did you see his conversation with Martin O'Neill?
No, not yet. It's on the watch list, but I haven't got around to that yet. No,
because there's one little snippet of this that I think might be quite telling, and I'll play it for you now.
Contract next year. I'll be here nearly 6 years, so which is a long time. But I feel fresh.
Does that set alarm bells ringing?
Nah, not necessarily. It's a bit interesting that he rolls the 2 lots together. I like the 2. like
6 years is a long time. I've been here 6 years now.
Like Ange's 2 years didn't happen. So yeah, I don't know. Is it 6 years? I don't know if it is 6 years.
Coming up on 6 years, 2.5 plus 3 and a bit, isn't it? Or, yeah, 3.
Did he do 3.5? Yeah, I don't know how much he did.
By the time he's finished this 3 years, that'll be 3 years. Yes. And he was 2.5 last time, wasn't
he? Yeah. Well, he went in February, didn't he? So yeah, just a bit over 2.5.
So he's rounding up to 6 to say, look, I've been managing here for 6 years.
But that's still 18 months away before his contract's up. Like, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think there's a lot of water to flow under the bridge before we get to. And I think I agree with McLaughlin-P's latest comment. What we do this summer will play well into whether there's another. If he wants to stay longer. So I think if he signs an extension in this close season, we can assume that he's getting back this summer significantly, because I don't think he signs an extension if he isn't absolutely nailed on, knows he's getting what he wants in terms of money and even players identified and deals done or nearly done.